All right, everybody. Episode 23 of the Breaking Balls podcast. Jair Alexander, Christian McCaffrey, you decide. Adam, we're heading west to Phoenix this weekend. It's the NASCAR Championships. Got 4 left for Cup, 4 left for the Truck Series, and there's 3.5 left, according to Noah Gragson. What?
I'm not a math major, Bob, but 4 plus 4 equals 8. The Eagles are 8-0. We're going to break down the rest of the Week 9 slate. And Matt Ryan won a sports game. Basketball.
Flags in the air. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
All right, episode 23, folks. We have made it. Breaking Balls podcast is back. Post Thursday Night Football, and my beautiful co-host did not bury the lead there. The Eagles are 8-0. It's a good time to be alive out in Philadelphia. Vince Papale in South Philadelphia are running through the streets, hands in the air, just celebrating all night long. It's good to be an Eagle, Adam.
Yeah, you would barely even know that the Phillies lost to the Astros tonight because let me tell you, Philadelphia is a football town at the end of the day. They love their sports. They're passionate about their sports. You'll probably see a video of Jeffrey Lurie getting yelled at before the game by fans he had to starkly remind them that he brought them their first Super Bowl. But the Eagles are 8-0. I could complain, but nobody's going to listen. Because I've said it 4 times now. The Eagles are 8-0, Bob.
Yeah, the scrappy Texans gave you all you wanted here tonight. Classic Thursday night game here, Adam, where, especially early on, the Eagles looked sluggish. Couple sacks, couple fumbles on Jalen Hurts. It definitely looked like they were out of sync here. But that being said, their talent overweighed it. The defense stood tall when they needed to in the second half. And, Thursday night football gets really weird, really, really weird. But Davis Webb is not greater than Jalen Hurts. The universe has not succumbed to full Thursday night potential yet. Give it time.
That's right. Mills Mafia, I'm going to need you to sit down. What I found most impressive about this game, other than the on-field performance of the Eagles kind of coming in late to clean things up, was this felt like a home game for the Eagles. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people from Philadelphia probably saw that the Phillies were in the World Series, saw the Eagles were playing in Houston on Thursday night, made a long weekend of it, and you heard them. I mean, anytime there was something happening to the Eagles, it was the exact opposite of the crowd reactions that you would expect because I think, honestly, the Texans kind of got cheered out of their own building there. But, I said I wasn't going to complain, but I will mention that first half defense. It looked like they didn't really get off the plane. That's my Philadelphia sports fan. I'm needing to find things to complain about. But at the end of the day, offense picked them up there in the first half. They came out in the second half and just did their thing, forced turnovers, sacks, all sorts of things. Honestly, it's not the prettiest win that I've seen the Eagles have all season, but a win's a win. They don't ask how, they ask how many, Bob.
Exactly. Like you said, you want to complain, but you simply can't, being the only undefeated team. This is the first time in Eagles franchise history that you've gone 8-0. I mean, you got to celebrate the good times here, Addis. Philadelphia knows more than anybody. Sports are a roller coaster. So, moments like this, you got to soak it in. Obviously, I said the Texans are scrappy. They gave you all they wanted. Damon Pierce looked really good, the rookie running back out of Florida. They've got a lot to build on around him. They've got a lot of draft picks for next year. So, John Mechie, hopefully he can get better. I know he's dealing with the illness. I believe is it leukemia, I think. But regardless, they've got a lot of potential down the line here. It's just, can they get through this season? I mean, Davis Mills, I think we know it's just not it. I watched them last week. You watched them this week. Our team's just kind of beat up on the poor Texans back-to-back weeks. Listen, Texans fans, Breaking Balls are 2-0 against you this week. I'm sorry. It's facts. It's analytics. You may not like it, but you have to live with it, okay?
No, 100%. The Manalytics tell us that we're 2-0 against the Texans. So there's that. But speaking of the Manalytics, the Texans offensive line really passed my eye test tonight. I mean, we've seen this Eagles front seven be dominant all year. And like you said, the Texans run game especially behind that left side with Laramie Tunsil there, they really looked impressive. They were moving the Eagles around a little bit. They were able to run the football, which I personally didn't see coming at all. I thought if they were gonna have a chance in this game, I thought that Ole Mill's Mafia was gonna have to beat me through the air. But at the end of the day, they did a really good job running the football. Bob, you may not like to hear this, but this Texans team is about a defense away from being a carbon copy of the Tennessee Titans in a way. They look young. They can dominate the line of scrimmage. It'll be interesting to see what happens in your division going forward here, Bob. Do you feel the Texans nipping at your heels?
Maybe like a chihuahua biting at a soldier's heels or something. They're close to being the Titans until they get their generational running back. Then we'll talk. Once they get a Hall of Fame, Damon Pierce, great running back, looks great. Probably going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year, if not Kenneth Walker. But listen, not going to make that comment yet, Adam. I'm not going to drink that Kool-Aid. Lovie Smith's beard is beautiful. I believe your words, Black Santa. Is that correct? But
that would be correct, yes.
Just for the record here, it's not mine, it's Adam's if you want to come at anyone. But I'll honestly fight for Lovey's beard because that thing is incredible. Listen, even if Lovey goes winless the rest of the year, you got to keep him around just to see how good that beard's going to be. So, the McNair family, if you're listening right now, keep Lovey, keep the facial hair, let it grow. We're not even talking about the teams growing at this point. We're talking about Lovey's face.
I didn't expect to get into beard talk, but now that we're here, I always have personally thought that he's keeping that just in case he was fired by Christmas, and that way he could go and be a mall Santa somewhere, because that is a luscious white beard. That being said, like you said, I think the prudent play is to keep Lovie Smith around. I mean, he's obviously got this team playing hard. Obviously, my recency bias tells me that this team could turn into the Tennessee Titans, and I'm going to stick with that take until I die, because at the end of the day, Bob, if I watch somebody run the football well, I kind of think of Derrick Henry, and that's the utmost compliment that I could give you.
Okay, now when you put it like that, it's not as bad as it sounds.
See? Sometimes it's a little bit of perspective, Bob. You just got to...
You had to reel it in a little bit there. You had to reel it in a little bit there, but it wasn't as far out there. Okay. Listen, we're going to be the carbon copy, though, okay? Just so don't get it twisted here. All these teams that are, not skillful at passing the ball have a decent run game and a decent to above average offensive line. We're not going to call every one of these teams the damn Tennessee Titans. Okay? I'm not gonna have my culture be a costume.
Oh no, Bob. But back to the Eagles, because why not? I mean, they're 8-0, like I said, 5th time on the podcast. The Eagles are 8-0. Shit, that's 6. Jalen Hurts seems so comfortable in this RPO offense, man. He just is running it to perfection. You could tell the team is really behind him. And at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts has a quote, and I heard it. I got to give credit to Michael Irvin, because Michael Irvin on Part of My Take, I was listening to it the other day. And Jalen Hurts has a quote that says, "Don't be a thermometer, be a thermostat. Set the temperature in the room that you walk into. Don't just adjust to your surroundings." And honestly, there's a little bit of wisdom in that. And you could tell that by how he plays, how he's approached the offense. He just makes such good decisions. He has so many weapons, and he finds a way to utilize them all in such a way that especially looking forward into the Eagles' schedule, of course, they'll have some tests later in the year, but this team is flying high right now, pun intended. And by the way, Bob, just in case I didn't say it, 7th time, the Eagles are 8-0.
Eagles are 8-0. Let's just make it a sweet 8th time. Might as well put a bow on it right there, Adam. I mean, Goddard today looked like he was the key that kind of moved it all. When everything wasn't moving at first, he kind of was the guy in the middle of the field that kind of stepped it up. A couple third down conversions there. Obviously, Miles Sanders had a pretty darn good game. Because, like I said, Jalen Hurts looked like he was pretty rusty to start. That homecoming first time playing in Houston, his hometown ever, got to be, a lot to take in for him, having all of his family there. And, I'm not saying that was the reason that sluggish start. Probably just because it's Thursday Night Football, to be quite honest. But regardless, there was a lot going on there. And for them to be able to overcome that, even on the road, wasn't even on the road, like you said. There's a bunch of Eagles fans there. Still, you got to win no matter what. Doesn't have to be pretty, but, Thursday Night Football is a test to getting prepared. Maybe not on the practice field, but more mentally and just, schematically. So, credit to the Eagles. They did what they needed to do, and they're coming away with extra rest. And moving on, looking toward 9-0 next week. I'm going to beat you to
Yeah.
9-0. I'm going to beat you to that one this week.
Bob, don't say that too early. I'm an Eagles fan. I could find a reason why they're not going to be 9-0, and I think you know that.
Well,
Anyway.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Amen, brother. You ready to jump into the rest of the Week 9 slate? We've got some pretty good games coming in.
Yeah, let's do it here. A lot going on. Where are we starting, though?
Well, Bob, I guess we could start in the AFC. This was a
Adam,
game.
Before we jump in, are there any international games? Do I need to set my alarm?
No. Thank goodness, no. We're not yet in Germany.
Yes!
We're going to be. We are going to the Germany in a couple of weeks, but not yet, Bob.
College game day is not in Frankfurt this week. That's what I want to hear. Let's go.
Oh, no. Live from Berlin. It's just kidding. Anyway, Bob, this was a game that we're going to talk about a game that if this were a decade ago, I would be so excited because all this game would mean to me is, well, not even a decade. Oh, God, I'm old. Oh, no. Oh,
no.
Goodness. 15 years ago, Bob, this would have been Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady. You would have set your alarm. You would not miss this game. And now, fast forward to present day, we've got Sam Ehlinger and the two-headed monster that is Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. The Colts and the Patriots, their Colts go into Foxborough. Bob, what's your take on this one?
I don't think that the ticket prices are going to be as expensive as they usually are for this this matchup. Even the Andrew Luck, Tom Brady era. I don't think we're going to have to worry about balls getting deflated in this one here, Adam. I'm not too concerned about it. Do we have to even mention? I guess the Patriots are probably the better team. It seems like they've got a little bit more to play for here. The Colts just. We say it every week. I'm not going to get too down on them here, but man, for what they were, thought out to be as this team that is going to walk in and dominate the AFC South, be a dark horse Super Bowl contender for a lot of teams here, or a lot of pundits. And now they're, starting Sam Ehlinger, cakewalk the rest of the year, saying basically, okay, we're rebuilding for the next year. Frank Reich fired the offensive coordinator. Jonathan Taylor's not playing probably this week again. It seems like that lends sanity for Jonathan Taylor being the best running back in the league is over, so that's fun. We can wash that away. I mean, man, it's pretty sad to be a Colts fan, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm going to take it there's not a lot of sympathy coming from you there, Bob?
Very little. Very little.
Well, anyway, yeah, I like that one, Bob. I think, honestly, Bill Belichick is going to handle Sam Ehlinger. I don't even think he has a chance in hell in this game. I think it's hilarious that every single time that I break down a Patriots game, I just consider it Bill Belichick versus the opposing team's quarterback because at this point, what else are you relying on if you're the Patriots?
The Patriots are genuinely like a college franchise or a college team where
they're a mid-major.
They're built around
right now.
They're built around the image of their coach. You couldn't really name most of their players. It's a revolving door every 2 to 3 years, but the coach is always the same. And that's the Patriots. You always are marketing around the coach and not the players, which is not like football.
Yeah, very weird, but I like the Patriots in this game. I think honestly they're going to end up handling them. Did you make your solid pick, Bob? I'm not sure. Are you picking the Colts?
I picked the Patriots, but I picked to not watch it.
Well, Bob, speaking of games that I'm probably not going to watch because you mentioned earlier, there was a lot of pundits who want to crown people at the beginning of the year. And one of the men who was getting crowned earlier in the year was Derek Carr. And there was a lot of people who went out this offseason and got their quarterback some weapons. Not the Green Bay Packers, but we'll get to them later. But Derek Carr, they've got Devontae Adams. We're going to hear all about it. The Fresno State connection because the Mountain West is a dominant conference somehow. And we heard long and hard about how Derek Carr was going to win an MVP award. And here we are. It's week 9. They're playing the Jaguars. They're going down to Duval County. And
Duval.
This was a game that if you would have told me at week 2, I may have been interested to watch it. But since both teams have fallen off a cliff, both teams have really shown us who they are. Bob, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of entertaining plays in this game. It's one of these games that you feel like you and your buddies hit 3 randoms in Madden, you kind of get stuck with it, and you're just going to kind of go all out on offense there. Like you said, the Raiders, especially last week, getting shut out down in New Orleans. They crossed midfield one time, I believe, and it was in the fourth quarter. Devontae Adams having one catch for 3 yards last week, unacceptable. You got to think they're going to come out and look better this week. Otherwise, it just isn't a testament that it's going to be a long year in Vegas, where this team that had all this talent and all the potential just absolutely crashed and burned. They've got to win this one, Adam. It's not even more of a test. The Jags obviously are building towards something. I think they probably have a little bit more in the tank right now. But that being said, I think this one means more to the Raiders.
Yeah, and honestly, Bob, you said that this feels like a game that when you randomize and you're playing, 3 randoms, this feels like both of you guys tried your suicide for your 4th pick, and it just landed on the Raiders and the Jaguars, because there's no way if you had 3 randoms, you're picking either of these teams. That being said, Hungry Dogs run a little bit faster. I think the Raiders do need this game a little bit more than the Jaguars this week. Hopefully, we see Derek Carr throw the ball to Devontae Adams more than one time, but all that being said, I like the Raiders in this one. I think the Jaguars have fallen off a little bit of a cliff here.
It's desperation.
Yep, 100%. Well, Bob, we're going to move on to a game where, at the beginning of the year, this was a Packers W in the win column. But we got Packers at the Lions in Detroit. Both teams struggling, can't seem to buy a win. Bob, who do you think is going to win the auction for this win in this game?
Let me tell you what. If the Lions win this game, I'm going to need all sorts of news cameras in Green Bay, whether it's on the fans, if it's in the locker room, if it's on management. This just, we talked about the Raiders feeling like they need a desperate win. I don't think it can get any more desperate than the Packers right now. Where they're at, they have looked pretty rough the last month or two. They missed Devontae Adams. They missed just offensive weapons outside of their running backs. And, Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked awful. I don't think it's necessarily his fault. But that being said, for winning MVP the last 2 years, him and that offense have just been non-existent. And, if they lose to the Lions here with Jared Goff and, this team that hasn't been able to win, they've been so close, but they haven't been able to get over that hump. If they lose to this team, man, that's a really bad indictment on the Packers and where they're heading toward this year.
You know what, Bob? You said if. You kept saying if there. And if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean. And if my aunt had a dick, she'd be my uncle. I'm taking the money Lions in this game, Bob. Money line, Lions, money Lions. Let's do it. I think the Packers are going to come out, think this is the same old Lions team. And if you've watched them play, this is not the same old Lions. Yes, their record says same old Lions because they are losing football games at an alarming rate, might I add. But this team plays hard. They've got weapons. I think they do enough defensively to where they will be able to challenge the outside weapons that Aaron Rodgers does have. I don't think this is as sure of a matchup as it usually is. Money Lions, Bob. Money Lions. I'm telling you.
I'm not going to go that far. I am going to pick the Packers here. I'm just going to pick it safe. I'm one of those people. The Lions are going to probably keep it close here, but I will believe they win when I see it.
I am believing in Man Campbell this week because that's all I can do. If not, I don't want to see a grown man cry at the podium again.
Well, Adam, if he wins, he might cry too. At this point, it's 50-50 either way.
Yeah, you're 100%. Speaking of going either way, two teams whose seasons really... Honestly, if you looked at both of them, you would say that they've kind of traded places as far as hope goes. The Chargers head to Hotlanta in Magic City to play the Falcons. Bob, what do you think of this one?
I'm thinking the lemon pepper wings are calling my name out in Magic City once you said that. But enough about that. We'll go to the game. We'll stay away from Lou Williams' side and we'll focus on the actual game instead of the extracurriculars here. Where mind is on the field here.
In the words of the wise philosopher 2 Chainz, man, I love them strippers. Go ahead, Bob.
That's Titty Boy for you. But anyway, this Falcons team, they play hard. This Dean Pease defense is not giving anyone anything easy. You've got Marcus Mariota, doing just enough. He's not turning the ball over. He's using his legs to create opportunities here. And this Falcons team, man, say what you want. They're not sexy. They're not exciting a lot of times, but they play hard. And consistently in the NFL, that's a lot of times heart wins over talent and scheme. You're seeing it with this Falcons team. That being said, I am not sure if I'm going to pick them over the Chargers this week. I feel like it's one of those things where the Falcons are kind of, relying on more of their division schedule with these wins than anything. When it gets outside of that, their opportunities are going to be limited here, especially with this Chargers team. I don't think you're going to see Keenan Allen. It sounds like he is still hurt. That hamstring injury that is better, is not, is better, it's not, it's better, it's not. Somebody give that man a damn hamstring, for God's sake. I'm going to pick the Chargers here just because they feel like they need to keep up with Kansas City here. And to be quite honest with you, Adam, they have so much more talent. They actually look like a professional football team where if you look at this Falcons roster, it's a bunch of kind of scrapped up together guys on the bottom of the barrel for most rosters.
Bob, at the end of the day, I look at this game and sometimes you just got to simplify things. And you look at the two quarterbacks, Justin Herbert versus Marcus Mariota. You tell me who you're picking. I like Justin Herbert in this game. I know that the Chargers are banged up. I know that he doesn't have a ton of weapons, but I really do think that the Chargers are going to come out on this one. I just think that offense is a little bit too high-powered for the Falcons to keep up with. But that being said, like you said, these Falcons are scrappy, Bob. I'm telling you, they're scrappy.
The winner of this game, though, the quarterback side, is definitely Phil Knight's favorite kid at Thanksgiving. 100%. 100% Phil Knight's going to name his next dog either Marcus or Justin. And it all guarantees what happens at Mercedes-Benz.
It's the swoosh bowl, Bob.
Do
you think they'll be able to come out and like all sorts of different crazy uniform combos? Maybe they'll switch pants before the game and just really.
I think every quarter, each quarterback is required to change helmets.
Oh goodness gracious, that would be incredible.
Mm-hmm. If they just true Oregon fashion.
I think honestly, at the way the NFL set it with their uniforms, what if teams just started coming out in new uniforms after halftime?
Like the Mighty Ducks in D3?
Yeah, that'd be raw. Are you kidding me?
It worked for them.
Hey, man, nobody likes wearing a sweaty jersey, and I can attest to that. I sweat like a whore in church when I was playing football. Anyway, Bob, we've got a classic battle of North versus South, both teams in the AFC. Of course, I'm talking about Northern New York and Southern New York. We've got the New York Jets, the Baby Lear Jets, hosting the Buffalo Bills because no one circles the wagons quite like the Buffalo Bills. Bob, I love the Lear Jets, and I think you know that about me. I think they're fun, but with Breece Hall getting injured, I don't think they stand much of a chance in this one.
Yeah, you saw the Jets last week. You saw Zach Wilson kind of regress. He's looked great all year. He's protected the football. These Jets have been so much fun to watch, especially focusing on the ground game more. And with no Breece Hall, the Patriots really honed in on Zach Wilson to beat them. And let me tell you what, that did not happen. So if you really think that the Jets are going to do the same thing to the Buffalo Bills, now that being said, I think they're going to come out and look better for sure. I think they're going to actually come out here and probably have this to be a one-score game in the third, fourth quarter. Would not be shocked if they're leading at halftime even. But that being said, I think the Bills, even when you've seen them have sluggish starts when they don't even look their best, at some point they turn it on and their talent overweighs everything. They just start to gel, and they're firing on all cylinders. And I think you're going to see that in this game. With it being inside the division, these teams are very familiar with each other, so you're not going to see anything. I don't think you're going to see the Bills blow them out by any stretch here, but I do think that they win this game.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think you're spot on the analysis there, Bob. I just think, the Jets are definitely building something. That Breece Hall injury, man. I know I've said it a couple times here, but man, that injury just takes so much firepower out of their offense. I think. Obviously, not to backtrack here, but in case you forgot, the Eagles are 8-0, and they won an ugly game, even though they're a good team. I think the Bills. This may end up being an ugly game for the Bills, but at the end of the day, they're too good of a team. I don't think they lose this game in any way, shape, or form.
We'll say though, you said ugly game. You say ugly game though. The Bills' one loss this year was inside the division in a very ugly game down in Miami. So if you're going to beat the Bills, it's probably going to be something of that recipe there.
Yeah, it's not you've got to turn it into a fist fight in a phone booth if they've got a shot in hell in this game. But I just think that they've got too much firepower. I think even if it does turn into that type of game, the Bills are still going to win. Moving on, Bob. the sleeper team of the year from the NFC North, the Vikings, headed to the NFC Beast. Wait, not the Cowboys, not the Eagles. It's the Washington Commanders. There's their name. I found. Yep, that's the team. Yeah,
Football team.
Football Commanders. Yeah, that's it.
I refuse to acknowledge them as the Commanders on this podcast. Forever the Washington Football Team. I will go to my grave saying that. Most people will go to the grave refusing to call them not the Redskins. No, I'm fine with that. The football team is what I grew up on. Okay, so don't take away my childhood.
So did you grow up yesterday or last year?
You know, Adam, we have a lot to talk about, but yes.
Oh boy. That must have been a very formative year for you, though, Bob. Looking at this game, speaking of formative years, Kirk Cousins, man, I don't know where this year's coming from, but he's performing. He's playing well. Dalvin Cook, obviously, I mean, you can never ignore him in the backfield. Justin Jefferson, we can't say enough good things. It's our standard Vikings analysis, to be honest with you. I will say this, though. I love the fact that Taylor Heineke buys Jordans in every single color of the team that he beats, and I really hope he gets some purple and yellow ones, man, because those would be nasty. So I'm going to pick the Washington Football Team, Commanders, whatever you want to call them, because I think Taylor Heineke needs a new pair of shoes, Bobby.
I love that. I saw the ones he got from the last game, and they were so clean. Oh.
Chef's kiss.
That's a cool little tradition he's got going on there. I like that, but. We talk about the Vikings here. What time is this game, Adam? I haven't looked at the schedule on the time slots there. Is this an early game?
This is an early game, 10 a.m. Pacific, so 1 o'clock Eastern.
Well, you know what that means. Kirk Cousins early slot, unstoppable. Vikings will win this game. Not handily, but the Vikings will win this game. It doesn't seem like they can win any game decisively, but, you didn't see them under Mike Zimmer winning these close games, and that was the biggest difference. They were a 500 team because they couldn't win those close games, and this year, that's what they're doing. They're turning all those tight losses that have been historically the last few years into wins, and they're 6-1 and 3.5 games up on the division because of that. And I don't see them taking a step back here. I know this Washington team has kind of turned things around the last few weeks. Brian 50 Cent Robinson has been a nice spark to that offense for sure. That being said, this Vikings D-line is nasty. I think they're going to make Taylor Heineke make sure that he is not calling sneakers and saying that hey, I need another pair. Not today. You did not get the cut, my friend. You're going to be like me on November the 19th, those lost and founds. You're going to be shit out of luck, and you're going to be shoeless.
He lost the drop. For every drop that Bob loses, we have to pour one out for the homies. A lot of people don't know that, but
a lot of drops.
Bob is a sneakerhead, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you on the podcast who don't know. Well, let's move on, Bob. We got another game in the early slate here. What I have dubbed the Cat Bowl. Panthers, Bengals. What do you think of this one?
Meow.
Meow.
Do we know who's quarterbacking in these games? Is it PJ Walker again?
I think so. Honestly, the Panthers are as weird as it seems.
He's been good. He's been good for them. I just want to make sure. Baker's not going to sneak back into the lineup here or anything. No Sam Darnold seeing ghosts out there. This is PJ Walker's team, huh?
No, honestly, I think Baker Mayfield's probably back in Cleveland. I heard he had some issues transferring title to his home at the Cleveland Browns Stadium, so he's got to go back and kind of tighten those up a little bit for Progressive. But, yeah.
I heard Baker's at a Cheesecake Factory parking lot right now, but that's, allegedly.
All right. Anyway, I really do think the Bengals are just going to win this game at home, even though, short week obviously coming off of Monday Night Football, which, by the way, on a Monday Night Football game, were there two more appropriate teams than the Browns and the Bengals? So much orange. That was just perfect. But anyway, sad that Jamar Chase isn't there. I think the Bengals will work the kinks out against this Panthers team. I'm not ready to call it a rout, but I am ready to call it a pretty decisive Bengals victory.
I want to, but this Bengals offensive line has just not been able to protect Joe Burrow. And this Panthers defense has been very good. That being said, that offense, I don't know if they can keep up with these horses in Cincinnati, but I'm gonna buy into the Kool-Aid. Why not? I'm gonna pick the Panthers in this one, just because this Bengals team has so much flash in the pan potential. But as far as a 60-minute football game and the trenches and just the entire A to Z part of the game, they're not complete. And I think that's where the Panthers are going to get them.
Yeah, I agree with that, Bob. I think at the end of the day, no, you know what? Fuck you. No, I don't. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Wait a minute.
It's way too amicable. No.
Yeah, no,
You're
I
a
don't.
lawyer. You're a lawyer. You're not in the Peace Corps.
No, I'm not. And you know what? I got to fight you on that one, Bob. I just think that, like you said, you mentioned it in your analysis. There's the horse. That's the part that I hung up on. That they're not going to be able to keep up with the horses, or may not be able to. I just we got to simplify it. It's a quarterback league. PJ Walker versus Joe Burrow. You tell me who you're picking. I'm picking Joe Burrow. Apparently, you like PJ Walker, and to that I say, whatever. But
It's not the first time I've been wrong on this podcast, and it's not the last. I just think Brian Burns is going to be all over him tonight.
Bob, we are going to have to move on now to a matchup between two teams, the Miami Dolphins and a team from a certain Midwestern town in a certain Midwestern state that starts with a C, ends with an O, and has a hickag in the middle.
Win again?
Bears. The Bears. The Bears are playing the Dolphins. Obviously, the Dolphins are going up to Chicago. No idea what the weather's going to be like, but I guarantee you it's not what it is in South Beach right now. Bob, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, you could think of two different cities than Chicago and Miami. Let me tell you what, first of all, there doesn't get more, clashing culture shocks there. But I digress. Justin Fields, Tua Tagovailoa. This is just Georgia and Alabama's quarterbacks going off against each other. Oh, I'm being told that Justin Fields actually transferred. Kirby Smart chose Jake Fromm. Hate to see that. Anyway, Justin Fields has looked pretty good the last couple weeks here. It feels like the Bears are starting to get a little momentum under him in that offense. They're adding Chase Claypool at the trade deadline. That's going to be something I think is notable. That said, this Dolphins team, man, when they don't kill Tua, he's undefeated. I mean, the record doesn't lie there. Waddle has just been feasting with him in the lineup. Obviously, Tyreek Hill in that dynamic offense. It's just, I don't see why they won't stop. Our golden boy, our golden coach, Mike McDaniel, is just going to keep humming along, and I don't see any reason why the Dolphins don't go into Chirac and, blow up Southside a little bit there.
Bob, you mentioned it, and I couldn't go any further into this analysis from the city of Chicago without saying it. Rest in peace, Offset. Very, very sad, saddening news coming out of the south side of Chicago. So a moment of silence for Offset.
Hey, Ad.
Hey, Bob. Oh, it's Takeoff. Oh, no, it's Takeoff.
There's so many things that were wrong with that. There's three that come to mind. Let's go ahead and do this real quick, buddy.
Yeah, no, let's do this. I tried.
So, it was Takeoff.
Okay.
Takeoff was murdered in Houston.
He was murdered in Houston? Why did I hear Chicago?
He was murdered in Houston, and the Migos are from Atlanta, not Chicago.
I thought he was murdered in Chicago. That's on me. But what I will say is I have not a single defense for what I just did, except for the fact that this is probably podcast gold. So if you're hearing this, I am a lot of things. I am not a smart man, but I like to think of myself as a man of faith, and that's a deep drive to left by Castellanos. And I'm just
for those keeping up at home, Quavo and Offset are still alive. Takeoff was murdered this past week. Yes, a very sad situation. But
yes.
Don't start Googling more Migos. We still have 2/3 of the Migos, folks.
Yeah, we are Migos amigos here at the Breaking Balls podcast.
That was folks. If you think that we script this podcast, that is a moment right there where I can prove to you we do not do any sort of scripting for this. It is all 100% authentic.
What if I told you that I did that on purpose?
No, anyway, I'm gonna
on purpose.
Adam, RIP to Takeoff. I'm picking the Dolphins.
Honestly, I think the Dolphins. Speaking of Takeoff, the Dolphins are going to take off on the Bears all night. I got the Dolphins.
We still have another 30 minutes in this, folks.
Look at how mad you are. I love this.
I don't even know what to do here. I don't even know what to do here.
Man, hey, you said it earlier in the episode. It's not the first time I've been wrong on this podcast.
It's not
the last.
Just, I love it. There were multiple things wrong with that.
Yeah, honestly, I was just looking to say rest in peace. I don't know who's dead. It's hard, man. I don't know. Whatever. Sorry, that's a big my bad. Speaking of things that are dead, the Arizona Cardinals are going to play the Seattle Seahawks this week. Bird Bowl, another Bird Bowl. This one's in Arizona. What do you think of this game, Pop?
Let's go back. Let's slander Kyler. Let's get this over. Let's just slander Kyler and get it out.
Okay, let's do it. Yep, we got to get it out.
All right.
Something Call of Duty.
Or is 0-1 since the new Call of Duty's come out. I know that stat has been told multiple times. I've been told that I have to mention that on the pod by multiple people. So there you go. There's your Call of Duty stat. Cliff Kingsbury, that beautiful, handsome man. Man, if he loses to Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, there's no right in that ship, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. This Seahawks team, this story is so much fun. I love seeing Geno play well. The Seahawks team just feels like they're playing together and just kind of saying, fuck the world. Everyone wrote us off with that Russell Wilson trade. We're going to go out and show them that, hey, we're still good. We've got a great coach. We've got a good core of guys. And we got Geno Smith playing at a great level right now. Why can't we win the division? And so, hey, this is more of a test, I think, for the Seahawks than it is the Cardinals, to be quite honest with you. And, going into, week one, I don't think either of us would have even fathomed it saying that.
Yeah, if you would have told me week one that in this matchup, the Seahawks were the ones who were going to come in with pressure on them to win this game, I mean, the Cardinals really kind of have nothing to lose at this point. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, of course, is coaching for his job. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know, Bob. I think Geno Smith still hasn't learned how to write. I think he's going to come out, play strong. I just like the way the Seahawks are playing. There's nothing that the Cardinals have shown me. They have a lot of talent, but just haven't really been able to put it all together. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins being back for that team is critical. He's making big plays. That offense is so different when he's on the field. That being said, I don't think it's different enough. I think the Seahawks play good enough team football to win this game.
No, I'm with you. I'm not going to pick the Cardinals in this podcast, that's for sure.
Amen, brother.
We've built a brand here at Breaking Balls, and I'm not going to slander it and start over at episode 23. So,
speaking of building brands, TB12 hosts the Los Angeles Rams. Wow, this game would have been a lot cooler if we would have just stuck with all the preseason analysis of both of these teams, because we haven't said any Matt Ryan slander. Matt Ryan is dead, but Matt Stafford has a dead elbow. And I'm still shook that Offset isn't the dead Migos member, because I genuinely get them all confused. Anyway, speaking of getting them all confused, Tom Brady probably gets his children confused, but he is good at football. I like Tom Brady to beat the Rams in this one.
Like you said, if this game could have been week one, this would have been a fantastic start to the season. Now it's just kind of buried into the weekly card here. You hate to see that, because this was a great game last year in the playoffs. This is what the Rams kind of built their Super Bowl run on, was going down to Tampa Bay and winning. So for this game to kind of slide under the radar here, just kind of shows you the trajectories that these teams are on. I am going to pick the Rams here just because Aaron Donald against that interior line. Good God Almighty, Tom Brady. I hope that the TB12 method, and Guerrero has been working with him this week extra, just because if he gets hit by Aaron Donald, he may actually snap in half. I mean, I am concerned for Tom that, alimony is not going to be the only thing that's getting split down the middle for the Brady family here. It might be actually Tom if Aaron Donald comes up there. So I am going to pick the Rams here just because I think that they are I think they've shown a little bit more the first 8 weeks. That being said, neither one of these teams has performed like we thought they were, and it really is just kind of, which team can right their ship before the other one, because we're running out of time here, Adam. These teams, we're halfway through the season already, man. It's getting to be where these teams are going to be kind of who they are instead of, Tom Brady and this team, they just need a little more time to figure it out, and they'll click. This might just be the Bucs team. And I know you didn't pick them to make the playoffs, but this might be why.
Yeah, I can't say that I saw them falling off the cliff this hard. I'll even, even as somebody who didn't pick them to make the playoffs, I knew that Brady was going to fall off a little bit of a cliff. Nobody could have foreseen all the injuries and all the problems that they've had, including a divorce. I mean, who saw that coming at the beginning of the year? But I think this is a get right game for the Bucks. I think the Bucks have more to play for because I think obviously still kind of in that division hunt. The Rams, a lot more questions. Obviously, that division is, Lord knows, it's a toss-up. The Seahawks are winning that division right now, Bob. So I think, honestly, the hungry dog runs a little bit faster here, and I really like the Bucks in this game at home.
Yeah, I will say, and just to look at the slate here, I hate the NFL, how they do the afternoon games. This week, there's only 2 in the afternoon here, which for us at this podcast, we'll get into NASCAR later, but it does work out for us because obviously our eyes are going to be on the NASCAR race, I think, a lot in the afternoon. But, they got to balance it out a little bit better than just 1 game or 2 games at the 3 o'clock slot. That's BS.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a weird way to do it, but,
Bob,
Bob,
I bitch about it every week. I'm sorry.
No, and you're 100% right to, because I think there's a lot of people who feel exactly the same way you do, including myself, because it's like we have to spend all morning, and of course it's great to have the Red Zone channel in the morning and have different games to choose from, but then you get into the afternoon and it just slows down to such a place where it's like, it's not that, especially the 2 afternoon games, it's Seahawks, Cardinals, and Rams, Bucks, so it's like neither one of those games on their own is something that I'm really going to want to sit and watch the entire thing. Why not mix in a few more games?
Do you expect us to hang out with our families for 2 hours? I want to be with Scott Hansen all fucking day, okay?
Anyway.
I don't want to make eye contact with anyone in my blood family, okay? I want to know Scott Hansen's routine all day. That's it.
Yeah, dude, I have no idea what that guy's making, but whatever he's making for the afternoon slate is too much. That's all I'll say about that.
Or not enough.
Or not enough. I guess not. Bob, before you mentioned it, obviously we've got a lot to talk about in NASCAR, but before we transition, I would be remiss if we did not talk about the Sunday night football game. Your beloved Tennessee Titans headed into Arrowhead, the loudest place in North America, allegedly, to play the Chiefs. Here goes. Headbanging Bobby. Let's go. Give it to me.
I'm excited. I'm not going to turn off NBC from like 1 o'clock in the afternoon until like midnight my time. It's going to be the National Bob channel because we got NASCAR as a beautiful lead into my beautiful Tennessee Titans, somewhat beautiful Tennessee Titans this year against the Chiefs in unbeatable Arrowhead, the greatest stadium in the world, the most rowdiest environment. It's a fucking parking lot, okay? It's a fucking parking lot. They get there 12 hours before the game because there's nothing else to do in Kansas City but barbecue, which we'll say the Kansas City barbecue is absolutely delicious, incredible. If you've never had it, it's the best barbecue in the country, hands down.
Oh, no. Continue, but no.
100% yes. You've never had Oklahoma Joe's, my friend, regardless.
You're wrong.
Well, I can't go off of this. Where's the best?
It's Texas-style barbecue is the best, but honestly, there's a few places out here that if you were to try
not even.
Bob,
no.
Phil's in San Diego. Phil's Barbecue in San Diego. You're a fucking idiot if you shake your head, because one day we're going to go down there. We're going to make the pilgrimage, and you're just going to have to face facts that there are people who are from your part of the country who don't want to stay there forever. And God damn it, can they barbecue when they leave? And this gentleman down at Phil's, I don't know if his name is Phil or not, but he creates some of the most beautiful barbecue concoctions. It's Texas-style barbecue. It's dry rub. That's it. It's not this Kansas City weird. And then, honestly,
you like this Brooklyn barbecue? You got this wonderful out in Queens. I got this little joint shop. They smoke it all out back. It's wonderful jerk chicken.
Well, you just wouldn't understand. Obviously, you didn't. You clearly didn't watch House of Cards because there was good barbecue in D.C.
Okay, Freddie was different. Freddie knew what he was doing around. Regardless, here, before we get into a tangent here, regardless here, Adam, let's get into the game. Well, it's midnight. I don't want to get hungry again. But regardless, this is going to be a test for the Titans. They've won 5 straight here. They've beaten some lesser competition, you could say. Obviously, the Chiefs are either 1A, 1B, 2 in the AFC, depending on how you value the AFC standings here. It's going to be a good test for sure. I'm curious to see how they handle Patrick Mahomes in this passing offense. Obviously, the Titans D line is going to be all over them. I think it's going to be a good challenge. I think for both teams' interior lines here. Um, I think this one is a little bit more telling for the Titans than it is the Chiefs, just to see where they are in the their pegging order. But I am curious to see how the Titans handle the environment in Kansas City. There, I don't know. What do you think, Ad? Just as a nonpartisan fan here, you can break my heart. It's okay. As my co-host, stab me in the back. Just get it over with quick, babe.
No, honestly, after you talked about the pegging order instead of the pecking order, I'm just going to be very, very careful about what I say next. Hey, yo. I'm just going to say it. I pray that I am second in line, as the kids would call it. No one behind me, because there's only two.
You never want to be number one in the pecking order. Let me tell you what.
I can't say you can. But I think you called it, Bob. Measuring stick game for the Titans.
I don't think we can call it that either.
Damn it.
I don't think we can call it either one.
Every yard count. God, no.
It's a game of inches. No. It's a game of inches. It's a game of inches.
Isn't life? I mean, let me tell you. Whether it's the 6 inches in front of your face or the 6 inches below your waist, I think every inch is going to be a struggle here in this game.
But enough about Subway. Let's get back to Arrowhead.
Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. I just think, honestly, this game hinges on how the Titans defense plays. If their DBs show up and can cover, I think that interior defensive line can wreak some havoc. Some of the best inside twist games and inside stunting that you see in the NFL week to week is if you watch the Titans interior defensive linemen. They usually will load the A gap. Sometimes they load the A gap, and just some of the stunts they're pulling out of there are absolutely absurd. That being said, it's too big of a question mark for me to pick the Titans in this game, Bob. So I will get it over with, stab you right in the back, put you first in the pegging order, and just let you know I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. That being said, I could see it going the other way if hell freezes over.
Nope, that's fair. That's fair. I am very curious to see how Kansas City handles Derrick Henry about 30, 40 times a game here. If Ryan Tannehill should be healthy, I guess the ankle we'll see. That being said, that lack of a passing game or the question mark. I mean, they're last in the NFL in receivers, yards, and touchdowns. They have one receiving touchdown this year. One.
Ooh.
One.
That's not a stat you love.
They are obviously very, very good at running the ball and controlling the clock, and obviously they kind of slug it out and they make the game very ugly here. But when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have some sort of a 50-50 offense here. So they're going to have to find a way to move the ball in the air, not just controlling the ball on the ground. So we'll see. I'm curious to see what they look like. As a fan, I'm not putting a lot of hope into them, but that's when the Titans play the best, to be quite honest.
No, I think you're right. The Titans always play best when they're the underdog or when they're, somebody's doubting them. I'm sure Vrabel's been feeding them all the bulletin board material that there is out there this week. Be interesting to see how it goes. But you know what, Bob? You mentioned it. We're going to keep our eyes locked on the National Bob channel this weekend because 35 weeks ago, we started a journey. And we watched it, we watched it together at the Clash at the Coliseum in LA. You came out. We had a heck of a time. Just so much fun, such a good atmosphere. And in the middle of the season, things got a little rough. We had some mechanical issues. We had Kurt Busch getting his concussion. We had all sorts of things. But we'll save the season breakdown for some time after this championship because it is Championship Sunday for the 3 big series in NASCAR, Xfinity, and the trucks. Bob, I think we're going to skip the truck talk because But
I want Ben Rhodes to win just for the press conferences. It was great last year. I need it again this year.
Yeah, I think Ben Rhodes is my pick too, to be dead honest with you. That was kind of the one name I was going to throw out there because I think he's got this. Hopefully things go well.
And Ty Majeski won 2 of the last 3 races, so he's probably the winner, but I want to see Ben Rhodes win.
Dude, talk about a guy who's come on. I know we said we were going to talk trucks, but here we are. Ty Majeski's come on strong this year. I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, that's about the length of the truck talk for me. Because at the end of the day, Bob, the most interesting series to talk about, we'll talk about it first, is the Xfinity Series. You mentioned it in the lead up to this episode. There were some interesting comments made by Noah Gragson. You want to fill the listeners in on them a little bit, Bob?
Yeah, so he had a couple of things to say about Ty. The first one, obviously, he was talking about, there's 3.5 drivers left in the final four. Well, obviously they needed him to elaborate on that. And he said, well, there's me, there's, Justin Allgaier, my teammate, Josh Berry, my other teammate, and then there's the other guy, Ty's there. He's the little guy. Just an absolute shot to Ty Gibbs. And then they kind of made him talk about Ty Gibbs a little bit further. They asked him about the incident last week with Brandon Jones, him wrecking his teammate to get in, taking his teammate out of the championship. And Noah just goes on a little tangent saying, everyone else puts up the face and says, whatever about it. We all can't stand the guy. Like, none of us like him. And I'm tired of saying it. I'm tired of faking it. Like, I can't stand him. I don't want to be out there with him. I have fun racing the other guys. He named drivers that he had fun racing with. And then he said, when it comes to Ty, I don't enjoy it. I don't like doing it. So it's going to be a long weekend for Ty. I listened to Door Bumper Clear this week. I know that they'd said that even the non-playoff drivers are going to race him incredibly hard. They think probably the hardest he's ever been raced in his life. And, for you being a 19-year-old in your first ever championship event in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, NASCAR level at all, to have this over your head, I mean, man, there's a lot going in this week. A lot, Adam.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you're Ty Gibbs, because of your last name, good, bad, and different, you are going to have a pretty good-sized target on your back. Just because, obviously, we talk about it, even if it's not true. The spoiled rich kid, da-da-da-da-da. Obviously, Dad's got his leadership position in JGR. And the only thing that Ty Gibbs did by wrecking Brandon Jones out for seemingly no reason, to be honest with you, because he was sealed into the playoffs, it just pissed people off. It just showed that all he's thinking about is himself. And honestly, Noah Gragson said it after the race, and that's why I wasn't too surprised to hear his comments about him this time. Ty Gibbs racing, and then obviously he acted like he was fruity and slip as a joke, but I think guys are getting fed up with him. He's going to get raced very, very hard. I heard the same thing you did about on Door Bumper Clear about how he's going to get it. And I'm anxious to see how he holds up. But let me say this, Bob. If he does find a way to win this race, with every single person in the garage has a target on his back, man, oh man, would that say something about who he is as a driver? That being said, he's not my pick. I just think he's got too much to go against, obviously. And I just, Bob, I'm just going to say it. I like puke in this one. Oh, Noah Gragson. I think man gets nervous, holds his breath, has his anxiety attacks when he's in the car. He doesn't even know whether or not to call it anxiety. I'll diagnose it for you. That's what we call anxiety, Noah. That's what that is. You should. Yeah.
I can tell you from experience, my friend. That is anxiety out the wahoo, brother.
Hi, how are you, brother? Yeah. I don't know. I just think going into this one, I really like him. I think Noah's had speed all year. He's probably been the fastest of the JR Motorsports cars.
He's in the class of the field.
Noah. He really has been, and that's the thing. I think for a long time, that 54 car in Xfinity was hands down the single best car in the field, and I think we saw Noah Gragson and Junior Motorsports kind of take that up and kind of make this a real contest this year. I think Noah's got a good shot at this one because I think he's got the best car in the field. And it's hard to say that because there was times early in this Xfinity season where I thought Ty Gibbs was going to run away with it. But then Noah Gragson comes out and I can't remember, was it the month of September when he won 4 races? I mean, oh my goodness, he just came out on fire. I think he kind of keeps that momentum going into Phoenix. I think not as many, doesn't have that same target on his back, does have the same caliber of car as Ty Gibbs. So I like Noah Gragson to win the championship here, Bob.
Yeah, you mentioned that 54 car the last few years has just been a monster car in the Xfinity Series, whether it's stars coming in and, filling in for it or Ty in the last couple of years. It's just has been the class of the field. So, yeah, I think consistently the Junior Motorsports cars, not even just Noah Gragson, obviously he's been the best overall. Yeah. I think even of the whole field, but he's been the best Junior Motorsports car. But all 3 to 4 junior cars have been incredibly fast this year, all the way down to Sam Mayer, who just missed out on the championship as well. But they got everyone else in. They got all 3 in. They're just as fast as not fast in that 54 car this year, in my opinion. And that being said, Noah Gragson, I think, has been the fastest car all year consistently. I wouldn't be shocked if him and Ty got into something here, mid-race, racing each other hard. I actually think maybe this is just the Hendersonville bias in me, but he won last week. He's a great short track racer and is really good historically at Phoenix in his starts that he's had there. I think Josh Berry's actually going to win this race here, Ad. I think he's going to be your Xfinity champion in his first full-time season in Xfinity. Junior's guy that he brought up from iRacing. Great story if you haven't heard his story up at the podcast. But I do. I like Hendersonville's own Josh Berry to win the Xfinity championship this year. Go Commandos.
Go Commandos, am I right? Bob, you mentioned really, really good stories. And before we kind of take our deep dive into the championship 4 at the Cup level, we got to talk about this because over 7 million views when I last looked. The Hail Melon, as we've dubbed it. Ross Chastain, man.
Over 100 million. 100 million ad.
100 million total?
That was after Tuesday night. It was well over 100 million.
Oh, goodness. I clearly didn't look close enough, man.
You were probably looking at just the NBC thing, which I think was like 7 to 11. No, like on TikTok alone at Tuesday night, it was over 60 million.
I have had people who I haven't heard from in years text me and say, "What was that? Like, can you give me, one of my one of my childhood best friends text me and he's like, I need another sport, another reference that like I need something to kind of contextualize this." And he was asking me, he goes, "Hey, is Ross like a household name or like what is Ross?" And I was like, dude, in the past decade, Ross Chastain was a bus driver. And I think that's the most incredible part of his story. He almost had to give up on his dream in racing and luckily scratched and clawed and found rides and found sponsors and obviously found such a home at Trackhouse that, oh my goodness, just for him to be where he is an absolutely remarkable story, Bob.
I mean, you look back a couple years ago at Ross Chastain, like you said, he was the bus driver at Spire, did a couple one-offs with them, a couple Cup Series starts with, random sponsors, but his big claim was, either the Flex Seal car in Xfinity or that Nice Motorsports truck for a long time in the Truck Series. And you saw this guy slowly work his way up, and, he gets that Ganassi seat finally last year, takes advantage, obviously, sticks with Trackhouse. They keep him on. And, Trackhouse in itself is an incredible story here. Obviously, in year 2, full-time with 2 cars year 1. And to see the vision that they've already put together, Daniel Suarez had a hell of a year. Obviously, Ross has been consistent all year. I think he was 2nd or 3rd in the regular season points. So to see them, Ross and Trackhouse both, had this success and to go on this run, and like you said, for all those different people to get eyes on it, this is exactly what NASCAR needed going into the championship weekend. And, you cannot time it any better as far as for a marketing standpoint for this sport.
Yeah, and that was exactly the next thing I was going to say. Luckily, my childhood best friend lives in Phoenix, and he's like, "Man, do I need to go get a ticket to this thing?" I was like, "Yes." I was like, "Absolutely, dude." I was like, "There's live NASCAR. All you really have to do to make somebody a race fan, just bring them to a race. The people are great. The energy's awesome. They do such a good job with their, I'll call it in-arena, in-track presentation. I think NASCAR does a really good job at that. They just need to find a way to get people there, and Ross Chastain did – just about everything he could single-handedly by riding the wall at Martinsville, and just, I'm still. It has been days, Bob, and every single time I watch it, I cannot even fathom what is going on. It looks like somebody is hitting fast forward. It's like it's the same thing. You heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is bad," and it almost felt like when they, to quote the movie Semi-Pro, when they invented the alley-oop, it was foul, double foul. I mean,
technical foul.
You just can't do that. You can't go flying through the air like that. And that's the thing. You can't go riding along the wall like that, just at 100 some odd miles an hour, shifting nonetheless. I mean, just an incredible story. What a great way to get eyes on the sport. I know a lot of people,
like you said, all the different people that have reached out to you and I both separately in our group messages, all the different that don't watch NASCAR that have not even put it near their radar, have no idea anything about it except that they probably think Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Stewart are still racing, to be quite honest with you, these people. But they see this and they go, wow, that looks awesome. Maybe I need to give it a little more attention, or maybe I need to, you see all these F1 drivers, Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, all tweeting about it. And they have millions of followers at their disposal. A lot of them international followers that think NASCAR is just, a bunch of guys doing left turns at 200 miles an hour, no science, no skill behind it. When they see stuff like that, man, that opens your eyes to think of NASCAR as more than just this, follow the leader in a circle.
Yeah, it's just one of these things. It was almost, very much, you hear about the pass in the grass all the time. This feels like our generation's big moment. And it really, it's one of these things that I don't think, as long as I'll continue to watch NASCAR, there's no chance we ever forget this. Any single time we go to Martinsville, we're going to see this clip 100 times. Any promo, anything. I mean, it's one of those things that you can say all you want about it, but if you want to put more butts in seats, show them that clip. It was incredible. It was still one of the more remarkable things I've ever seen done on a racetrack in any racing series ever.
And, if he goes on to win the championship somehow, that move is going to be even more down in history and lore. Obviously, it's just going to add to the story and the aura. And same thing for Christopher Bell. We might as well go into the championship four now here, Adam, just because.
Let's transition.
Obviously, Bell and Chastain the last week with their moments here at Martinsville, and Bell with his Roval moment, the win and get in. Both these guys have an incredible story in these playoffs that, if they were to somehow win at Phoenix, both Ross or Christopher, it would probably go down as one of the more improbable runs in NASCAR history, just because of the odds that they were at. Ross is just because of everything, whether it was where they started at Trackhouse, obviously coming in, they were not even near the championship radar. If I would have told you at the beginning of the season, Adam, that Ross Chastain was going to be one of the championship favorites and was in the four, you would have laughed at me. Every single NASCAR fan, pundit, everything would have laughed and said, "Get the fuck out of here."
But if you would have told me that after 10 weeks of the season, when he was going around wrecking people and everybody was talking about, "Oh, I'm going to get him back," all that stuff, I would have thought you were crazy. But look where we are now.
There was no way it was sustainable, but he has made it to where he's made that speed consistent and is kind of, I don't want to say curved back the aggressive driving, because he's still definitely driving aggressive and full sending it. I mean, look at last week.
I was going to say, he drove 110 miles an hour into a wall.
He's not just wrecking people anymore, or he's not trying to just put himself in those positions. And so, obviously, if he were to win, incredible story. But Christopher Bell, the same way, with those 2 walk-off wins at the Roval in the last 2 races. If he were to win, that would go down in NASCAR history. I mean, those 2 guys have incredible backstories. And then you got 2 former champions as well. I mean, really, when you look at the championship four, a lot of great storylines here, Adam.
Yep, we're going to give each guy their flowers a little bit. I'll touch on Christopher Bell because obviously that's where we headed next. Talk about a guy who has done has just as impressive wins, or has just as impressive feats, but is just getting none of the publicity for it. Christopher Bell, to get 2 walk-off victories like that, we don't even talk about it because of this move that Ross Chastain pulled. And I think, to be honest with you, that kind of works in his advantage. Pressure's still off for him. First time in the playoffs. He's not going to get a ton of the media attention because, honestly, I think we're going to get a media frenzy around Ross this week, which, to be honest with you, is why that, among other reasons, is why I don't think this is Ross's year to win the championship. But a guy like Christopher Bell, man, he snuck in. He's found a way to sneak in and be opportunistic whenever he's had to. And I guess the question becomes, can he do it one more time at Phoenix? All credit to the crew chief and the pit crew there, because they have done a wonderful job of kind of zagging when everybody else is zigging on pit road, and doing a great job of mixing up the strategy just enough. And Christopher Bell just finds a way to put his car in front.
You mentioned the pit crew. People forget that pit crew literally got flipped mid-season with Bubba Wallace because both teams were performing so bad and having mistakes. And credit to both those teams. They both have figured it out and have been well-oiled machines. Bubba Wallace's team as well. But Christopher Bell's obviously has put him in some incredible positions in this playoffs to really be competitive at the end and have that chance to win and get in. And, we've said it all year. Bell has probably been the most consistent Gibbs Toyota in the field. And historically, Phoenix has been pretty good for the Joe Gibbs camp the last decade. So, if anyone's got a good shot, it's that guy for sure. Obviously, Hendrick's got something to say. They've been just as good as Gibbs there. But, I mean, man, if you're Christopher Bell, you got to love your fighting chance going into Phoenix this week.
Agreed 100% there, Bob. You mentioned Mr. H and Hendrick Motorsports, so we may as well talk about the third guy in the Final Four here, Chase Elliott. Obviously, champion just 2 years ago, and Kyle Larson obviously winning last year. So Hendrick's had a lot of success here at this track. Bob, I don't want to admit how strong of a chance Chase Elliott has here. Not because I hate Chase Elliott or anything, but just because I kind of want to see something new. I could see Chase Elliott flying under the radar. We haven't talked about him a ton in these playoffs because he hasn't looked good. And
he has deserved it.
No, he's had a lot of question marks around around the driving, around the cars, different setups, kind of banking on races and then not performing. It'll be interesting to see if, at the drop of a hat coming to Phoenix here, if they can put it together.
Yeah. Last year you saw him take a step back from the championship here. Obviously, Larson's dominance, I think, had a lot to do with that. But, his crew chief, Alan Gustafson, cost him a lot of races with strategy. This year, I will say the 9 team has been pretty nails when it comes to race strategy. Hasn't had a lot of mechanical issues for the most part. Knock on wood for him. His pit crew's been pretty consistent. Obviously, got one of the best spotters in Eddie DeHaan in the business there. But Alan Gustafson has been pretty clean in calling races this year. You got to wonder if that mistake will rear its ugly head because he's always been due for those. And that seems to be one of the 9 teams' kind of Achilles' heels is race strategy. Hadn't seen that this year, but you mentioned it. Hadn't talked much about chasing these playoffs because he has not looked great. I mean, I think 3 top 5s, maybe 2 top 5s in these playoffs. I mean, when it comes down to since the playoffs started, I think he's like 14th or 15th in points. I mean, for the regular season champ, he used every single part of that cushion to get into this championship for. And I mean, if you really want to say it, he's probably the coldest of everyone it left. I mean, that being said, one of 2 past champions, it's hard to count him out, especially with Hendrick's dominance at Phoenix the last few years. But, history of the last few weeks has said that Chase Elliott has not been good. And I'm very curious to see which 9 team shows up.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You couldn't have said it any better there, Bob. The regular season championship is important. And if you don't think so, look at how Chase Elliott advanced through these playoffs. Because for better or worse, whether you like the system or you don't, it worked out because we did end up getting the regular season champion in the Final Four. Last guy we're going to talk about, he's got a hot-ass wife. And honestly, I think a hot-ass chance of winning this thing because why not? It's Joey Logano. Joe, I really quickly here, I just think he finds a way. He's a crafty veteran. I think you see him kind of drive to the front early in this race if he can. I know he loves doing that, would love to dictate the pace in this race. It will be very interesting to see because if there's one unproven manufacturer at this track, in my opinion, it's Ford. And obviously, Kevin Harvick, he's owned Phoenix from time to time. But I don't know. I just think past champion in Logano, I never like to count him out. What do you think of him, Bob? I just, it's hard for me to say exactly, but I think if he gets up there, gets out early and kind of can dictate the pace a little bit, I don't hate his chances.
You mentioned Ford's unprovenness this year. At least it seems like they've got some speed the last few months here. But remind me here, what manufacturer won at Phoenix in the spring here? Who does Chase Briscoe drive for?
I forgot.
Oh, wait, Ford won the Phoenix spring race. Interesting.
I forgot because we talked about it, how dominant, in the lead up and then even post race, we were shocked because obviously Chevy and Toyota has been dominant here in the past, but Ford seems to have found some speed. Oh my gosh, I totally blanked on that.
Yeah. No, and I mean, Joey and even Brad Keselowski when he was at Penske had some success at Phoenix before the last 2 or 3 years. The 5 years before that, they were pretty good at Phoenix, obviously with the Gibbs camp. That being said, when you look at this championship 4, it seems like the other 3 guys are getting all of the coverage here, and you kind of forget about Joey Logano. You kind of just forget he's even in there, that he's been pretty consistent. I mean, he was the guy that really had pointed himself in a great position the last 2 rounds here. When I really thought that he was not going to have a great playoffs here, I thought he would probably be the second best Penske car behind Blaney's consistency this year. But, Logano's been great on these mile flat tracks, these shorter tracks. Obviously, the Clash, Gateway, Darlington, Martinsville. He's been really good at these types of tracks. Phoenix sets into that kind of a style. And like I said, nobody's given Joey Logano really a lot of talk here, a lot of flowers. A past champion, really probably should have won the 2020 race when Chase Elliott did, but he had a tire issue, or he's not really exactly sure still what happened, but he said that, when he was leading with 30 to go, his car just completely went away for something after the pits, and Chase Elliott ran him down. So that being said, Joe Logano's got some history at Phoenix, unfinished business. Man, it's not a bad idea to pick him this week because, like I said, nobody's given him a shot. I don't know why, but it just feels like he's gone under the radar ad.
And let me say this, because a lot of people will talk about Ross Chastain's willingness to drive aggressively, but we're forgetting that Joey Logano is how do I put this lightly? Joey Logano's an asshole when he's racing. And it's a me first, after you situation. I think, honestly, he's got no problem moving people around. And I think, honestly, last race of the year, he's got nothing to save it for. It'll be I'm very, very anxious to see how Joey Logano decides to race in this race. And the other thing I'm very curious about, because obviously we kind of talked about Ross's story and stuff, but Ty Gibbs is going to get raced hard. We talked about that. How hard do you think that the Cup drivers are going to race Ross Chastain? Because I think he's made a lot of enemies throughout the season, Bob.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if maybe last week some of them kind of got in his good graces a little bit. They're like, all right, whatever, that's a cool story. I mean, I think that you're going to see some guys like Denny Hamlin not give him an inch. Obviously, if teammates can block for their own guys too, it's going to be team orders too, manufacturers first. But I am curious to see how they handle Ross. Are you going to see some of these non-playoff drivers in the back of the field getting past and make life harder for the leaders, or are they going to kind of move to the side? It's going to be case by case. If someone like Austin Dillon sees Ross pull beside him, may not be as friendly as I don't know, Daniel Suarez or someone like that. But that's definitely something to watch here to see if non-playoff drivers affect this championship standings.
We're looking at you, Denny Hamlin. That's all we got to say. We're looking at you. If there's any man rich enough to afford the fine that would likely come for wrecking Ross Chastain, it would be Denny Hamlin. Okay, Bob, before we get off of this and talk a little bit about the college football rankings, who's your pick? Who's you got winning this week at Phoenix?
Yep. I wanted to pick him so bad when we did our playoff preview, and I picked him as my second choice, and it pissed me off now looking back so bad. I should have went with the gut. The man of destiny. It's Christopher Bell's year, folks. Let me tell you what. The guy has been probably the best playoff driver as far as, speed through the, 10 races. If we're going to be honest here, why not? I'm picking him for Phoenix. Feels like destiny.
Bob, you mentioned destiny, but I'm picking someone else for the same reason. It was destiny because the first race we went to this year together at the Clash, the winner was Joey Logano. And that's my pick for the championship. I think he gets a little bit of redemption from last year. He comes back, obviously going to double, triple check anything mechanical on that car. I really like Joey Logano's chance to win this race. Flying under the radar. For some reason, he's not being billed as the biggest asshole in this race, even though he would probably tell you he's one of the bigger assholes in this race. But I respect it. And I think Joey's got a really good chance here. The speed that Ford has had recently, I just think if it's not Christopher Bell, I think it's Joey Logano, Bob.
It's a good pick. Every year it feels like all four drivers have a legitimate shot, but this year it feels like it is literally a crapshoot. I mean,
it's a toss-up.
I love it. I really don't know what to expect, and I feel like it's going to be back and forth a lot. I feel like it's going to be, X guy is definitely going to win, 100 laps in, and then that guy's gone at the end, and X guy looks like he has no shot, 50 laps in, and they do a change halfway through, and his car's just – I can't wait. I really can't.
Yeah, I'm very excited too. Bob, we talked a lot about pecking order, so we may as well look at the college football rankings this week because we've had a little bit of a shakeup. So just reading down, number one.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Tennessee,
number 2.
Ohio State. Number 3, we got Georgia. 4, Clemson. 5, Michigan. 6, Alabama. which it just feels weird reading 6 and then Alabama, but whatever. 7, TCU, who's still 8-0. Then we go into the teams that have got some losses on the record. Oregon, Southern Cal, SC, as we like to call them where I'm from, LSU. Bob, we're getting towards that part of the season. If you had to pick it, it's way too early. Who's your Final Four? Who's making the playoffs for college football?
Yeah, I'm going to shock everyone and say that I think Georgia beats Tennessee this weekend. So I'm curious to see how the SEC handles, the playoff situation here with Bama 1 loss, Tennessee 1 loss. You've got Ole Miss at 1 loss still technically too, and LSU at 10, 6-2. The SEC is a murky little mess in the college football playoff. I think it's going to be, predetermined toward the end. I think you're probably going to see Georgia 1, Ohio State 2. Clemson 3, just because the ACC is pretty much a joke. I wish I could say that it's something easier than that, but yeah. And then for my fourth one, I can't pick Bama because that means they're going to beat Georgia in a rematch, and I don't think they're going to.
I agree. Hard. This one's tough.
TCU. Give me TCU.
Oh,
give me the Frogs. Hypnotoad. I want Hypnotoad in the playoff.
Bob, I love that. If I'm looking at it in no particular order, I think Tennessee finds their way in because I think the voters showed their hand. With putting them at 1 this week, they're setting it up to where if they lose to Georgia, they're probably just going to flip them. I think the winner of the Tennessee-Georgia game goes 3-1, 1-3. That being said, Ohio State, Michigan, that'll be huge. Should be very interesting to see. I like Ohio State in that game because obviously Michigan, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback, and I don't care how good either one of them are.
We'll say, though, that Michigan defense against C.J. Stroud, C.J. Stroud he's putting up good numbers, but against legit defenses, I don't know if he's that good. I'll say it.
No, I hear you. And then, honestly, I just don't see who's going to beat Clemson.
That's the problem.
That's the biggest issue is if you look at Clemson's schedule, you kind of had Syracuse circled, but they handled that with flying colors. I just don't see who Clemson loses to, and you can't keep them out. I just think, obviously, it's way too early because there's so many unanswered questions, but can't wait to look back and see how wrong we are. I will say, if anybody wants to ride with Isaac Duenas, noted listener of the podcast, he just decided to text both of us in the middle of recording saying that he has a money line parlay on Notre Dame and Tennessee, $100 to win $750. Godspeed, Isaac Duenas. If Isaac does lose this bet, I want every single person, all 16 of you that are listening, to tweet at Isaac how big of an idiot he is, but we love him anyway.
And Isaac, if you're listening this far into the podcast, you could have just Venmo'd me $100 and saved your life there. At least give me some of that money instead of the books. But regardless, that's your choice, my friend. That's your choice.
Yeah, and honestly, we all love having choices. But Bob, that's about all I've got to talk about this week. Anything else? Anything we need to talk about?
Sunday night you're going to get a very raw and emotional Bob one way or the other, just like you got Adam tonight. And I can't wait. This is the primetime week for the boys, and I'm excited.
For the 10th time in the podcast, the Eagles are 8-0.
Just in case you needed to hear it.
And I think that's important to remember.
Just in case you needed to hear it one more time, Adam.
All right. Bob, it's time for redemption.
As we wrapped it out, ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 23 of the Breaking Balls podcast. RIP to Takeoff. RIP to Takeoff. Adam O'Shea and the Birds are 8-0 for the 11th time. Titans are going to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead on Sunday night. And Christopher Bell is going to win the NASCAR championship. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 23. God bless. Good night. Be a friend. Tell a friend.